Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Paula. Okay, it is June 27th, and it is our weekly meeting. I'm Erica Hatfield, your state director, and let's see where to begin. We'll begin with, I was going to begin with Al, but I'll begin with Mike Deffendahl. Mike, you posted today about 88 legislative session, special session one. So you want to give an update?
Yes, so congratulations. Special session one was a complete failure. It completed absolutely nothing. Big surprise there. But immediately, the governor's already called special session number two. It's already officially started, but both the House and Senate said they will gavel in tomorrow. And verbatim, what the special session is only to consider is legislation to cut property taxes solely by reducing the school district maximum compression tax rate in order to provide lasting property tax relief for Texas taxpayers. They also can consider legislation to put Texas on a pathway to eliminate school district maintenance and operations property taxes. Those are the only two items that would be in order if properly following the call of the governor's session. He has also indicated that, yeah, I'm going to keep doing this till you guys do your job.
So what you're saying is that the Senate version is not on the table?
There is no table. The table's been empty.
So the Senate version was to give people with homes a $100,000 homestead exemption, which the House does not want, but the Senate does.
And I've read that Lieutenant Governor Patrick's already said it's beyond the governor's authority to tell him what legislation to deliver. Just to his position is, you can tell me what topics to do, and don't tell me how to make the sausage.
Gotcha. So we still might get it. Still might not. If we don't get the $100,000 exemption, it's because of the House leadership. Well,
the House seems to be on board with exactly the way that the governor wants it, and to be honest, that's actually in the governor's press release. He mentioned one of the largest think tanks. He's talking exactly about TPPF, and so they're all in agreement on the whole compression only. The Lieutenant Governor's position is, yeah, you can't eliminate property tax because that's just too much of an apple to bite off. So there was a compromise that they tried to put out at the very last minute of the special. Nobody bid on it, and I don't. The indications are, if they can both sign any bill, he'll probably sign it. But I don't see the House willing to really budge on having their cake and eating it too, and say, do it my way or I don't care. And so as long as they keep doing that, we're gonna have lots of special sessions.
We will see how it goes. Anybody have any questions on that?
I do. I'd like to know if the Speaker of the House all by himself can block anything coming. I mean, anything that might be amended or whatever coming to the floor for consideration.
That gavel is a very powerful thing. He can rule things out of order. If the body doesn't agree with that, then they can question his ruling. But that's usually a very high mountain to climb, with some political consequences if they fail to climb that mountain. So, yeah, he can. And anything that comes from the Senate, he can just choose not to hear, which he did. So, yeah, that guy with the gavel has a lot of power.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. I mean,
I've got a question, Mike.
I'll do my best.
Go for it, Mike.
Yeah, for working class people like us, which plan would be better?
So that's really the $1 million question. If the real goal is really to get rid of property taxes, then this again, it only says to put it on the path to. So, does anybody really believe that we're going to get to the end of that path? Well, yeah, that's kind of how much faith you have in the government of any level to stop dipping into our pockets. Now we have the Senate on one hand wants to say, I can definitely give you this now, and I'll give you maybe more later if there's more to give you later. Whereas the House is saying, oh, trust me, we'll get this done. So you figure out which method you like, the apple you have now or the apple you might get later.
Yeah, well, we all heard the governor tell us that his ultimate goal was to eliminate property tax altogether. But
That would never happen this year or next year. So it'll happen if they continue his proposed plan for the next 20, 30 years. But,
Theoretically.
right. So let's, so Tom, you have a question or a comment? Because you sounded like you were ready to say something. You had your hands up.
Just quick question. If the House and the Senate manage to pass a bill, say in a week, would that declare the end of that special session? Or are they always 30 days?
Session will be 30 days, whether or not everything's done. I'm 95% positive he can't call a third special session while the second one is still officially going on. Now, but that said, there's nothing from stopping him from adding new items to an ongoing session. Because
Okay.
the session's already called. At any time during this session, he can say, thank you, you did this. Now go do this in the 20 days you have left. That's been, I know, I've seen that happen, so that can happen.
Patricia?
Yeah, I just want to interject something. It's a little bit not following this track, but when I went to Austin to the TPPF interview with Greg Abbott, I was speaking with someone, Mr. Pohl, at the TPPF. And then later, Texas Scorecard made some comments about their thoughts. And he made some really interesting comments to me. And first of all, what they were thinking, now this doesn't have any direct relationship to this conversation, was we're so concerned with whether or not there should be increased property taxes, a compression rate, or so forth. But the really issue should start with how much money do the schools need? And each district is different. They have different tax values of their properties. They have different amount of students in their schools. And looking at my county, the taxes that were raised for school property taxes made a huge jump from last year to this year. The increase in students did not increase significantly. We've got only 3 schools in our entire county. And when you look at the needs of the school districts to educate kids and for everything involved with it, it's different from county to county and from school district to school district. And so the thought was, rather than just look at the school budget and raise taxes or limit taxes or give homestead exemptions or anything else, you're kind of putting the cart before the horse. Because what you should really be looking at, what does each school district need? And if you look at what their needs are, and if you follow it up with, say, not a full-blown audit, but some third-party person looking at what the school districts bring in, what they spend their money on, is there a division between those who can control the money coming in and those who control the money going out, rather than the same person? Are those controls set up? And they also talked about, well, when the money gets spent, has anybody ever looked at, was that a legitimate expense? Maybe it sounded like it, but was it? And then the other concern that they expressed was, does any school administrator justify a $300,000 or $300,000 plus salary. And recently in Texas Scorecard, they talked about some school superintendent also had the use of $100.5 million home. He didn't have to pay rent, taxes, or anything else in addition to his salary. And I think they made a really good point there, because if you don't decide or investigate what does each school district need before you start giving them money, you are putting the cart before the horse.
Well, and I think the whole topic of school choice then leads us to good old capitalism, is that when you give the parents the money and not the schools the money, then the parents can choose where their kids go to, and they put their money into that school that's performing versus the schools that are not performing. And then you've got, when we're also talking about property taxes are local, right? It's not really it's nice of the state to say they're going to pay off the M&O, but it's really a local issue. When it comes to property taxes, you've got city property taxes and you've got county property taxes. And those, we've got the city of Stafford. I say this often, the city of Stafford and the city of Van Ormy, Texas, both of them have completely eliminated their property taxes within the cities. So if we can, as self-governing citizens, can emulate what they have done, I think that.
Am I hearing you say then that the issue is not just what the legislature should be performing and looking at as far as changing property taxes, but we in our community should be challenging challenging the school board's budgets? Because I don't see what authority we have when you consider that most of the board of directors on the appraisal boards have come from the schools. And that
So schools are separate, of course. Schools are separate.
Yeah, but the approval of their budget. So we have on the one hand, the schools saying, well, we need this amount of money because taxes went up, and maybe they don't couch it that way. And then the board of directors of the appraisal district have come from the schools, and they've often been teachers or on the board of directors to begin with. So we're really not getting someone who is objective, and we're not getting the opportunity to look at their budgets and say, do you need this money? Are you taking it from the people? And for the state to step in and say, yeah, we'll give people money if they want to put their children in private schools, is still not looking at the real problem. And that is,
well, I don't think it's private schools. The money they can choose can go to a public school. It can go to any public school or charter school. It can be for homeschooling. So
right, okay, but it's still separate from the public school. And that was the emphasis of the discussion. And I found it really interesting and valuable, because if you don't first know, does the public school need the money? Because if they don't need the money and they're collecting these taxes, either lower the taxes or give the money to those parents that want to put their children in private school or homeschool them. Why?
Yeah, I think they would opt in for, paying the superintendent more money. So, I don't know.
Schools would, but do we, the people, want that?
I think that discovery needs to happen within each of our local entities, taxing entities, and asking all these questions, and trying to find out from their perspective how what they see.
Well, how do we do that when the school board doesn't listen to us?
Well, you have to get their budget. You can FOIA.
How do you get their budget? I would love to. How do you get?
Yeah, get their their I call it a P&L. I don't know what it's called in the school arena, but the profit and loss statements, and get a group of CPAs to go over it and look at it. And
so if I walk into my school board meeting and say I want to take a look at your school budget,
no, you have to submit a Freedom of Information Act request.
And they're going to
they're required.
It's kind of like the Federal Government Open Records Act.
Yes.
You get nothing.
Yeah. You get nothing when you get a
Federal Government Open Records request. You can
Yeah,
submit
yeah.
it all day
It's
long.
not
but you
federal, it's not federal, but it is
Right,
a,
no, I'm just drawing a parallel here.
yes, yes.
So I guess I'm just kind of a doubting Thomas. If I go to my school board and I say to them, I'd like to see the record that you have for your budget.
It's the school administrative office, not the board.
Okay.
Hey,
so
Tricia, I would just say that they'd like you to believe that, but I submitted FOIA requests to the election office in Collin County, and they responded to all of them.
Yeah.
And there's actually there's state law about how quickly they need to respond. But I would just start by calling their administrative office and asking for the information first. It may be already publicly available. I would not, it depends on the school board, but I would not doubt if some of those school boards just publish it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so step one was, let's say, I'll be optimistic. I go to my superintendent and I'd like to see a copy of your school board's
Budget.
a budget.
Mhm.
And
Profit and
then,
loss, is it profit and loss? Because you want to see the expenses, not just the budget, but you want to see the expenses.
exactly. I want to see the expenses. I want to see the bank accounts. I see where the money goes. I want to see if the same person that controls the income controls the expenditures, or are there different people? So there is a control
Yeah.
rather than one person controlling everything and giving out a report that may or may not be accurate.
Yeah, and I would even put together a citizens group to review it together. And as Michael Defendahl says, relationships matter, right? He posts that almost every meeting. As self-governing citizens, when we pay taxes, we are the employers, they are the employees. So yeah. So give that a whirl. I don't want to hang on this topic too long.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for answering. I truly do appreciate your
But
comments.
let's definitely cover this. And I think that might be a good topic for the Education Action Coalition, to start something like that. And with that, I want to introduce Teresa, Dr. Is it Bustle? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yes, thank you.
It's Bethel.
So Teresa reached out to me and said, hey, Eric, I saw on the events page this SBOE dates, and I'm kind of interested in it. And what do I do? And I just said, just go there and do a discovery, ask questions. And so she did that last week. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about your visit there at the SBOE? So SBOE is State Board of Education, and
Right. So I sent I kind of posted the little kind of a short summary. So basically the State Board of Education, it has 15, they're elected members. And so with the legislation that just took place, like a lot of what I did this last year is I got involved in some of the research on inappropriate materials in public education, and kind of reviewing with some other people textbook or books in the schools. And with that, of course, one of the things that the legislation did is they passed the HB 900. So the 1605, when I kind of got interested in the Education Coalition, I looked on the SBOE website, and the 1605 was something that I noticed they were talking about in, they have recorded meetings. So if you want to kind of catch up on the State Board of Education, you can Google search, State Board of Education, and then go to their recorded meetings. And so what I did is I thought I'd backtrack, and I used to watch their meetings a lot. And then with legislation, I kind of got caught up in all of that for the last few months. So, but the State Board of Education meets like 4 times a year unless they have special meetings. And so I went back to like February and started watching a couple of their meetings and paid attention and noticed that for this particular set of meetings, they were going to be talking about 1605. So I went down that week of June 20th through the 23rd. I went to Austin just for the last day, which was the general meeting, but the day before they had So they start out, they have these little, they have 3 different committees, like on initiatives and instruction, and then the finance part. And because the State Board of Education manages the big, large permanent school fund, and but apparently with 1605, what I learned, they had a training session. This was another one of their meetings they had before their general meeting, and Mike Morath, who's the Commissioner of Education, I'm sorry, Commissioner of TEA, came and did a training session with the State Board of Education like the day before the general meeting. And it was hours. It was many hours long. A lot of their meetings run very, very long. But this meeting was a training of how does 1605 apply to you? And so basically before I gathered, maybe like 2011, the SBOE used to be in charge of decision-making for certain other things. And apparently it was that power was taken away from them. And I don't know if it was 2011 or 2013, 14, but I think it was 2011. And so Morath was, basically he was letting the SBOE know, now we TEA are required to work with you on this, but basically what we're doing is going to help transition these powers that you're going to be in charge of now, which included approving like instructional materials. And it was kind of interesting that I heard them talking about these things, because one of the things that I found out with the school books and reviewing books that I never would have thought were in public education, because I taught in public education, and I guess I just never would have thought I would seen some of those books until I actually started researching the school library in my area and started seeing some of these books. But so the State Board of Education is the very first kind of priority that I realized listening to these meetings is they've got to have a suitability advisory committee created, because they have to establish suitability parameters. One of the things that we realized fighting the books, for example, or inappropriate materials in the schools was there was all, instead of just being a sensible superintendent saying, you know what, that book is really inappropriate and it really has nothing to do with teaching the things we're supposed to teach in the school. Everybody they're afraid they're all going to get sued for just making a common sense decision, basically. And they have to get into these specifics like the PICO case and what really is obscene and what really is considered illegal in laws and all of that. So the State Board of Education is going to have a set of suitability standards to establish when the TEA goes and reviews materials, for example, like here's all the courses in the state that public education teaches. Here's all the instructional materials that they're teaching. Well, the SBOE has to approve those materials, and it's going to be tied to funding, which is another set of funds they were aware of. It's going to like billion. It's a really large amount of money that they are going to be able to distribute to schools, but they have to fit. It has to be approved by a certain set of standards for like quality instruction. Then it's also going to have to be passed through this suitability set of standards. So what I gathered in the meeting is top priority. Of course, they have these working groups, and that's kind of some of the stuff Erica was sending out, that they want people to come in and help in these work groups to really, really go through all these Texas Essential Knowledge and skills, which are standards that for all the courses that are supposed to be taught, all the subject levels, that people have to literally go through and analyze the language of the TEAC to make sure, that they're going to be teaching exactly what they're supposed to be teaching. And of course, if you've noticed the last few years, there's the wording has been to where people can put a lot of inappropriate things too, if they want, as long as they can prove that they're teaching a certain TEAC. But now SBOE is going to have to create this suitability set of standards. So you can imagine the people that are going to need to be on this committee to help be advisors to the SBOE needs to be really, really trustworthy people, because they're given a great responsibility to establish a set of criteria to help advise or whatever be references to the SBOE to establish the set of criteria that even if material can go through these instructional quality establishment, oh yeah, it passes that, it teaches all these things. Yes, but does it meet our suitability standards? So you could have a book that has inappropriate content in it. And because I ran across this, and instructors would say, yeah, but it has literary merit to it and things like that. But then now, since they're going to be establishing these suitability criteria, which includes inappropriate content, you cannot have false, it has to be based on factual knowledge, things like that, nothing misleading, nothing, they're really going to have to establish a set of guidelines that these materials that have gone through these loopholes and been hard to fight to remove, now they will have to pass that as well. So that's kind of the big part of what I learned. The basic meeting on Friday was just, I think that the board was so tired and worn out and clearly overwhelmed, because I got to meet about 5 of the members, and I just kind of brought up, wow, I'm watching some of your SBOE training from yesterday. And you can tell one of the board members told me their agenda was like over 300 pages. Their packet, not agenda like here's items 1 through 5, but like their whole packet of all the stuff that they have to review before the meeting was over 300 pages. So
yeah, so I want to address Thomas because he had posted in the chat. So our goal, Convention of States, this is for the new folks. Our goal is to get to a convention one day, and many of our states are passed. We have 19 passed states, of which Texas is one of them. We're the number 11. Passed in 2017, and one day we'll get to this convention and amendments will be proposed. Those amendments are going to come back to the states for the ratification process, which means the proposed amendments will have to pass 38 states. And what that means is that has to go through the House and Senate. So that's all future. So in order to set the stage for the future, we need to make sure that our eyes are on those elected officials at every local level, because they're the ones that rise to the top and become those decision makers when those amendments come back to the states. So we are getting involved locally, not just during our local legislative session, which is 140 days every other year. So we just ended our legislative session this year, and the next one will be in 2025. So what do we do until 2025, until the next legislative session? Well, we have to make sure we know who are our elected officials and which ones are rising up, and then squash the ones that we don't want to rise up, right? So SBOE, the State Board of Education, is one of those where we have elected officials, as well as like last November, they were wanting to change the social studies curriculum. We have to be on top of that because they're changing everything, right? And so that's what we're all about. So do you have any further questions, Thomas, on that?
I have I'm sorry.
I see your hand, James, but
yeah, that's me. Yeah, I have a question. They used to have elements that they designated for each course. I did math when I was doing that. And I'm wondering, are those elements still in place and still in force, or has everything changed?
Well, let's wait on that, if you would, James. Thomas had a question, so I want to make sure he has a chance to answer.
Actually, thank you, Erica. Terrific explanation. It was very helpful to help me understand a bit more about how to bring that vision more towards actionable items here locally. So perfect explanation. I think I'm like everybody. I just want the big fix. I want the problem that I see is just endemic, just to be fixed today. I want to snap my fingers. But when you speak to kind of just focusing our efforts on a coalition of watchdogs, it actually is very empowering. And I think that there is a big win there. And I think that it just comes up to us individually to take that kind of participation in the system of Convention of States and use our individual efforts to create as big of an impact as we can. I've certainly enjoyed getting to know you, Erica, and I've loved learning from you and the team. So I'm all in. I'm one of those people. It's always like sooner,
I know.
because it's so, I mean, you and I have talked offline, Erica. There is so much nasty, muddy things with the system right now. And so
in
I guess
every
we'll just keep trying.
yeah, every corner. So I'm super grateful for, and you were on mute, Teresa, when you were pronouncing your last name, Busel or Bustle? Bassell. Good. So super grateful for Dr. Bassell to come and say that she is willing to go and research and do the discovery process for the SBOE for us, and find out what we can take home to, action items. And let me share screen. She did do a write-up, and I wanted to share that with you guys. We haven't released it yet, but in the very bottom, there is some take action notes here. So there's going to be openings for TEKS reviews, and you can submit your application to review TEKS during the summer. And let's see, and then there's what Teresa was just talking about is the SBOE agenda preview. And it's a meeting held via Zoom the week prior to the agenda, and that's at 300 pages that you can volunteer for to review it. That's how I understood this. But and then these are the upcoming meeting dates. So August 29th through September 1st, and then November 14th through the 17th. And but I will be releasing this as soon as I have Teresa's okay. So
Did you see, well, I'll say the link that was for the meeting for the Committee on Initiative, that was actually, you had the link to the current meeting, and I realized when Karen spoke, that was actually on the April meeting, so I didn't know if you wanted to switch it to the April or not, because you had a.
Yeah, so we'll review that document that I just shared with y'all to make sure all the links are working right and all that, and then we'll send that out to the entire state so that folks can begin to get involved. Because what you'll do is when you put in your application, you want to do that together with your SBOE representative so they know that you're one of their constituents, and that way they can place you and they know where to place you where there's empty seats for those kinds of reviews. So I'm sorry, James, for cutting you off. So could you ask your question? I don't know what kind of curriculum there is right now. That's part, going back to your first question.
What I want to do is make a point about how to structure things. You need to tie something to fundamentals. And they used to have called the elements. Now, I thought the elements were way too long and way too specific. But I mean, that said, though, they were used as the basis for everything that flowed from that.
Okay.
Basic principles, like in math, what you're going to teach in that course. And I thought that any policies or books that are allowed, or whether they're appropriate or not, should be tied to the fundamental list. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think what she was talking about is more like the library books, what kids can check out. And a lot of them are also under health, sexual, health and sex or whatever. But my kids are grown, married, have houses, I'm a grandparent, or I don't know, it's been a while. So, and my grandkids are in Louisiana, not in Texas. So, this is all stuff that y'all have to figure out together. I certainly, am grateful for all of you to do all that with us. Mike Defendahl, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to put a bow on the conversation that we're having on the property tax situation, and then just my read on it. Again, this is not anybody's read but my own. One, the House/Governor plan includes having tax breaks for businesses. Read influencers, people that give money to campaigns. The lieutenant governor's plan is to try to get more money to people, i.e. voters. Companies don't vote. People do. I have a feeling that the lieutenant governor doesn't want to have the same political fate as the last lieutenant governor. What's he doing these days? Nothing. I suspect he has some goals that are beyond what his current position is. To do that, he has to stay nice with people who could actually vote for him. That's the difference in my political view.
Oh, here, this is the list of all the donors for Governor Abbott that are inviting us to that June 29th. I think Tom Bartel, you had posted it earlier that he's coming June 29th. Is that right?
Yes, I had gotten something in the mail, but I never did receive the location. Did you receive something that has a location for it?
No, it was, I received something where if I paid $500, I could attend.
Oh, there you go.
So,
Okay.
Translation, you're not important enough. You're not a donor.
Well, the good news is now I have an opening on Thursday night. That's good.
okay, so what else did we want to talk about? Save the date, please. The state strategy meeting. I also would like to have some feedback as to what you would like to cover in the state strategy meeting. Hold tight, I'm going to share screen again.
Oh,
See, Al, we miss you.
Yeah, you missed me. I know.
No, for little things like this.
Did
so
we
what's
lose-
going on up there, Al, in Virginia?
What's the Virginia team doing?
You
You're our
know,
spy there. You have to tell us.
they're doing good things. You know, I just try to make sure that I don't do what I really used to hate. What other people do is, you know, compare what you're doing today to what I used to do when I was over there. So I try not to say, well, in Texas, we did it this way, or in Texas, I'd rather do it this way. So I try not to do it. Eric's back. Got it.
Back. I'm back. I don't know when I lost you guys, but I did share the agenda is still blank, right? Did you get that?
We don't know when it is.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me try that again. I don't know why I dropped. Here it is. That's not what I wanted to share. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. This one right here. Okay. So you got the part that we are going to have it in Austin, downtown, at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. We will have it to ourselves. And October 13th through 15th is the dates, are the dates. And I have an agenda, which is completely blank right now. And that's where I need your help. What is it that you want to hear and learn from us? We are also, of course, we are going to strategize, and we are strategizing what is to come for the next 2 years, this year, next year, up until the next legislative session. So we're planning that out. What that means is that we're going to be planning to go to party conventions. We want to pass legislation. So all that, write resolutions, testify. So start thinking about what that should look like in your own district locally, and how you will help push forth our strategy. So Tom, you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I think we're going in the direction that I wanted to just bring up, that I think we'll need to spend a fair amount of time talking about the convention process that occurs next year. And like out of the previous convention, we came out of that on the legislative priorities list. Also came out on the Republican Party of Texas's platform, which positions us well with the legislature. So we want to do at least that well in the next convention. So there's a lot that goes into it in terms of how you become a delegate or how you become an alternate. And we'll be publishing things before the state strategy meeting. I think we're going to want to spend a fair amount of time at the strategy meeting too, to let let everybody know how you go about and do that and how you can participate. Because it is true grassroots democracy. It's getting in at the base level in order to help set the
Wow.
platform and the priorities. And our focus is going to be getting rid of our sunset clause. But that doesn't mean that you, as a self-governing citizen, can't put forth other issues that you'd like address or other resolutions. But what we're going to have to be laser focused on is getting rid of our sunset clause, because otherwise our resolution expires in May of 2025, and we'll be going through the process of getting our resolution approved again so that Texas isn't left behind when we go to convention.
So I don't want to hover there too long because that's October. I just wanted you to save the date. I do want to hear from Jonathan, because I see him online now, with a national update as well as an announcement.
An announcement?
Yes.
Uh-oh. I'm not even sure what the announcement is.
I'll announce it for you.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, actually, let me, I wasn't able to a few minutes ago, but I should be able to turn on my camera and say, hey, everybody. Good evening, Texas. Hope y'all are doing well.
And you would introduce yourself, because we have several new folks on the line.
Happy to do that. My name is Jonathan Viod. I'm the regional director for 8 of the first 15 states to pass the COS resolution, Texas being one of them. So I am your regional director. What that means is I serve you. I'm your liaison with the national organization. So if there's anything that you need, any resources or support that you need, I'm here for you. So please reach out, and I'm happy to do anything I can to help you and help the Texas team be successful. As far as the national update goes, let's see. Last week we had our latest COS at Home webinar with Jenna Ellis. If you didn't have a chance to check that out, I do encourage you to check it out. It was a great conversation with Jenna. She's a big supporter of Convention of States. She even mentioned that when she was working with President Trump, she mentioned Convention of States in Article 5 to President Trump, which was pretty cool to learn. She seemed very intelligent and articulate, so I do encourage you to check it out. I did give a nod and a shout out to all of the hard work that's being done in Texas, so you'll definitely want to check that out. Really great conversation. But you can go to conventionofstates.com/COS at home, all one word, conventionofstates.com/COS at home. That's got the archive, or that is the archive with all of the recordings of our COS at Home webinars, and Jenna's is the most recent one, so you'll see that right at the top, but you'll be able to see any other recordings as well. We also announced that our next guest is going to be none other than the COS Senior Advisor, Senator Rick Santorum, and we'll be looking forward to sitting down with him on Wednesday, July 19th at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. The very next night, we had another webinar featuring Mike Farris, one of our co-founders for Convention of States, and he talked about amendments and proposing amendments at the upcoming simulation that's taking place in August. So if you didn't have a chance to check that out, you can go to conventionofstates.com/amend, and that is where you can put in your contact information, and you'll be able to watch the recording of that webinar. And then if you have an amendment that you would like to have discussed at the simulation and possibly voted on, you can go to conventionofstates.com/propose, and that is where you can submit your amendment. I should pause here because this is O'Malley, my shadow, my co-host, my pain in the butt. And if you ever see me on any recording anywhere, you will likely see him as well. So for those of you who are new, that's O'Malley, and here he is. He heard me talking, so he had to jump up and get in my way. Anyway, so yeah, conventionofstates.com/amend to catch the recording of Mike Farris talking about the simulation, or conventionofstates.com/propose to propose an amendment that could be discussed and could be voted on at the simulation in August. Let's see what else is going on. The other thing, Erica, I believe, shared a post that I put out in over the weekend. I think I posted it late Friday. We have some Telepatriot missions that are going on right now. For those of you who are new, Telepatriot is our phone calling system, and from time to time, we ask, or the national organization asks some of the past states to help with the states that have not passed the COS resolution. And one of the top ways that we are asked to help is by making phone calls using our Telepatriot system. It was actually designed and created by a member of the Texas team many years ago, and we loved it so much that we picked it up and we made it part of our COS Action app. And right now, North Carolina is asking for some help. So we are asking you to help us in making some phone calls into North Carolina. So where does North Carolina stand? So earlier this year, North Carolina passed our resolution through the House, and we are now struggling to get it through the Senate. And I say struggle because this same thing happened in 2021 and 2022. We were able to pass the resolution through the House and not get it through the Senate. And we are in that same spot right now where we actually had it moved up on the calendar and we're able to get it through the House pretty quickly. And we're not able to get it through the Senate, and we're still struggling to do so. So we're asking for help in calling our supporters in some of the key Senate districts. These districts aren't with senators that are on the fence, though. We're actually calling the supporters of our resolution to thank them for being champions and ask them to apply some gentle pressure to the leadership there in the Senate to make it a priority. So hopefully we can get a vote. I believe session ends towards the end of July, so we don't have too much time left. It is a 2-year session, so if we are ultimately unsuccessful, North Carolina can pick it up and discuss it next year, and it would just have to go through the Senate. But we don't want to get it to that point again. We'd like to try and get it through this year. So if you're able and if you're willing, please go in and select the national team and help us make some calls to these districts there in North Carolina. I think that about does it as far as a national update, Eric. Oh, well, one other thing I'll mention is in Louisiana, and I don't remember if I mentioned this last week or not, but in Louisiana, we've been working on some non-COS legislation. Yep, there's O'Malley again. To 2 bills in particular that we were trying to get passed and across the finish line in Louisiana. One is to stop the sexualization of children in schools, and the other is to prevent gender assignment surgery on minors, right? 2 common sense things, 2 things you wouldn't even think we need to have as laws, but that's the times in which we live. So the latter of those 2 bills in Louisiana, well, the first we got through no problem. The second, as I mentioned, the gender assignment surgery, the ban on gender assignment surgery for minors actually was killed in committee because a Republican, I believe he was the chairman of that committee, sided with the Democrats and killed it. Our team got into action. We contacted members of the Senate. The Senate took a vote to actually revive that bill and send it to another committee. It successfully had that vote, was assigned to the Judiciary Committee. Judiciary Committee passed it out of committee. It went back to the Senate, passed the Senate. Both of those bills made it to the governor's desk, but the governor in Louisiana is a Democrat and vetoed both of those bills. So now the Louisiana team has put together a call to action. They're trying to get the legislators there in Louisiana to call a veto override session and are working hard at that. And I believe the deadline for that is coming up in a couple of weeks. So if you would, please pray for the Louisiana team, and hopefully we will be successful in getting an override session called for those 2 pieces of legislation in particular. As far as O'Malley, I would say, yeah, Mike's last comment there, constitutional right for tuna 3 times a day, that sounds about right, or just food more often. He's always complaining about food, and probably more attention too, because he can never get enough attention. So what announcement am I making, Erica?
Yes, you have a new assistant regional director. Could you introduce him, please?
Oh, do I have to? Yes, I would be happy to do that. Earlier today, we finally got this guy into our Slack workspace in the national team. And, you know, it's like a bad penny, you know, right? You just can't get rid of it. But no, all kidding aside, your beloved Al Torres, who left you and went to Virginia, well, we just couldn't allow that to stand. All right, now there's just chaos in my house because now this one's out of bed. Goodness, would you go to bed? Go. Thank you. Good night, Aaron. This was a great announcement. So yeah, that guy Al Torres that left y'all and went off to Virginia, because like family or something like that. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. He tried to get away. We couldn't allow that to happen. So I roped him in and pulled him in to actually come in and help out our region. So he's back and he'll never leave you because I'll make sure of it. But no, seriously, Al Torres has come on as a regional director assistant with the first 15, and we are incredibly blessed to have him. And just so happened to be on this call tonight. I don't know. But Al, thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to put yourself in front of the abuse that you're likely to get from me. You tried to escape, and I'm sorry, but couldn't allow that to happen.
You pulled an Erica. Come here. Yeah, I changed my name on there too. I don't know if you noticed it.
Jonathan's what? I can't tell. Matt. All I see is Jonathan.
Man,
His man.
Jonathan's Man Friday.
Instead of Gal Friday, Man Friday.
Only
Yes.
the names have been changed.
Yeah, so now I guess I gotta do more work or something. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. Anyway.
Neither have I, but we'll figure it out.
So just for those of you that are new, we throw a lot at you every Tuesday. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I know it can seem overwhelming. Just pick one little thing. It doesn't have to be all of it. Please don't think it has to be all of it, because we've had volunteers before that thought that every time that we got it, that they were just going everywhere trying to save the nation. Don't do that. We're just kind of bringing things up. This is just, for you to see, where can you get involved? I often talk about the cereal aisle at the grocery store. There's so many boxes, but you're not going to buy all of them. You can't buy all of them, or you could buy all of them and try a little bit from each one, but that's not sensible. So you'll want to just pick a box and try it out. And if you're like, no, this is too frustrating for me, then pick another one. So don't get overwhelmed with this. We didn't get here in 1 year. It happened over many years, and it's going to take many years for us to rope it all back in. But I'm very hopeful because you guys are awesome. Your teams are awesome, and yeah. That's all I want. Oh, I do see Rochelle on the line. She's new. Thank you. Yay. Can you tell us real quick why you signed up?
I was actually just sending you a message. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I was just sending you a message because when he talked about Louisiana, and those are issues that are really important to me, he said that we need to pray. And I believe in praying while you do something else.
Good.
And I didn't hear about the something else we need to do in addition to praying.
Well, yeah, we do have a prayer team. We have a prayer and ministry team under Darren York, who is in Thailand this week. I don't know when he gets back, but if you're interested in that, reach out to him. Well, you'll get connected with time. So just take your time.
I'm interested in praying while I do something else.
Okay.
I don't want to just pray. I want to pray and call somebody, send messages.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, you asked me to do what?
I asked you if you could tell us why you joined.
So I've been involved. I'm 59. I got involved in politics when I was 15.
Oh.
And I was a student lobbyist when I was 19 for University of Missouri. And I watched these legislatures go in and get elected for office. And years later, I worked for the governor of Missouri. I did his fundraising. And I saw those legislators that I saw walk in, and they were so pure and so idealistic. And when I saw them 10 years later, they were so corrupt. And I've worked on presidential campaigns, mayoral campaigns.
Oh, we get to learn a lot from you. I'm excited.
No, don't. I'm not successful at anything. That's why I keep doing different things. But after a while, you figure out that the problem is the system. These good people go in with the best motives, and there's just something wrong here. And I was aware of conventions of state because of Mark Levin. And I wasn't ever interested in it because I thought, well, I'll find the right candidate and support them.
Doesn't
And
work.
we got to change the system. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you
Welcome.
for joining us, and I hope it makes sense, what I explained earlier, why we're getting involved. You know, we have a candidate here in my district, running for a representative, and I asked him, how are you gonna keep yourself from becoming corrupt?
Yeah.
You know, it's always
Yeah.
interesting what they say, but, and I asked another candidate 2 years ago, and, you know, he drank the Kool-Aid. If you know about Brian Slayton. So he actually told me 2 years ago, it's lust, it's recognition, or it's money. Those three things, and they will get you. Those lobbyists know how to get you. And then another one told me, never drink a drink that is given to you. Always know where it's sourced. That's kind of scary, right? So
But that's what we tell women.
what's that?
That's what we tell women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, it's 8 o'clock, you guys. It's
I've
time
got
to
a question real quick.
okay.
Where are we going to be listing our ideas for the strategy meeting?
Just post them in
where-
Slack. Yeah, just post them in
Well,
Slack.
we're in Slack. I mean,
Anywhere I'll find it. I'll see it.
okay. That's what I've been trying to wait for. So,
Okay.
and Rochelle, on the prayer team. If you want to reach out, we can talk.
I will. Thank you.
Have a good night, guys. Love y'all.
Bye.
You too. God bless.
God bless.